Yo, what's cracking everyone? Ericship Triple One here. With Forza Horizon 4 being out for nearly 2 years, rumors are starting to circulate about the next Horizon title, and with the new Xbox Series X releasing at the end of this year, there's no better time to speculate as to what Playground Games have in store for us in the future. Now, of course, the biggest aspect of the Forza Horizon series is the location, and after the launch of Horizon 3, one location has always seemed to be the front runner or favourite, and that is Japan. Now, when Playground Games released the trailer for Forza Horizon 4 back in E3 of 2018, many of us, including myself, were quite disappointed that we weren't getting to drive our favourite cars through the streets of Japan, instead giving us a very respectable location of the Great Britain. Now, seeing as how the game turned out, and where the future of Xbox is heading, I'm now quite glad that Horizon 4 wasn't set in the land of the rising sun. To be very honest, in my personal opinion, seeing what Playground Games have delivered with Horizon 4, Japan would have been a massive disappointment. Now, I understand that if they set the game in Japan, I'm certain many of their approaches would have been at least different to a certain degree, but there are core features and reasons that just can't be denied, which would have made the game a big failure. With that said, feel free to discuss what you think down in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree, but here are 5 of my reasons as to why Japan would not have worked out for Forza Horizon 4. Starting off with number 1, map size. When you look at the map size from Horizon 2 through to Horizon 4, there really isn't much of an increase in area. Yes, sure, we've gotten more roads crammed into this pint-sized map, but it just doesn't allow any room for expansion. What I mean by this is the map is so packed with not just roads but also complete off-road areas which are also drivable. There's become a lack of diversity in the roads that also doesn't look like it's been planned properly. It was obvious with Horizon 4 that Playground Games wanted to jack up the amount of drivable roads so that it would surpass those of its predecessor at the cost of long highways or drag strips, which have been a core element of the Horizon series. Now, my understanding is that the current engine which runs Horizon 4 and the past 2 titles on the current gen console is nearly pushing at its maximum capacity, meaning even if the developers wanted to make a bigger map, they probably wouldn't be able to without some serious setbacks. Now, let's imagine a map roughly the same size as Horizon 4 with approximately the same amount of roads, one city, a couple of small towns, but this time set in Japan. I don't think the current map size will be able to encapsulate everything that would satisfy Horizon players and JDM car enthusiasts. One reason being, well, Japan has a lot of twisty roads which are great for drifting, but they also have extremely long expressways that go up multiple levels. Their main cities, they're all extremely dense, and there's just so much more that their landscape has to offer. And seeing as how lackluster the Horizon 4 map is, not even the location would have saved it. However, there is an upside with Horizon 5 set to release on the new and much more powerful Xbox Series X. Playground Games may have a new engine that could afford them to produce a much larger map, thus allowing the devs to have a lot more freedom. And should the next title be set in Japan, then having a larger map size would most certainly be a welcome upgrade. Number 2, huge culture that would have been missed. I may have mentioned this sometime in the past, but I feel as of recent years, the Horizon games have really lacked in the car culture that's set by the location. If I'm speaking for myself as an Australian, seeing Horizon 3, the game doesn't really give me the sense of the lively Australian car culture. Where are the boosted Fords with the Barras or slammed HSVs with huge cams that sound like they're choking at idle? There's absolutely none of that. I just want something that feels authentic. Have AR cars roaming around the streets that is realistic to what we may potentially see in real life. Not just drivatars in cars that are mostly stock and only match the same class as to what you are already driving in. Now, granted, should the game be set in Japan, their car culture is unbelievably larger than the one down under, but things like car meets, modifications or customization that would emulate how people in Japan would modify their vehicles Even a storyline in the campaign mode that can shed light on the car culture would make a huge difference as opposed to the grindy sort of leveling up system that Horizon 4 currently has now. Sorry if I'm slightly going off on a tangent, but in Horizon 4, the Horizon Festival felt so dull compared to the past titles. But just imagine how Playground Games can revamp their festival by injecting some JDM culture in there and perhaps for the first time actually make the Horizon Festival a usable feature in the game that's far beyond what we currently have. If Japan's Horizon Festival looked like anything we see in Britain's Horizon 4, it would have just completely destroyed the atmosphere, thus ruining the location of Japan. Number 3, lack of iconic Japanese cars. This has always been a problem with Playground Games, the lack of Japanese icons that have yet to make it into the Horizon or Motorsport game is very concerning. Granted, they have brought in some JDM cars in Horizon 4 like the X-Unicorn of the Honda NSX-R GT and most recently the Nissan Pulsar GT-IR, just to name a few, does give me some hope that in the future, more JDM cars will enter the franchise. However, seeing the current list of cars in Horizon 4 now, and even the cars that they have brought in through updates. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not being spoiled as I do appreciate the hard work and monthly updates, but it's just that those festival playlist cars, most of them would not satisfy the location of Japan at all. It's missing so many of the everyday Japanese favorites like the EG Civics, the R33 GT STs, or even just the GC8 WRX model. These are affordable Japanese sports cars that were used to modify them to the point where it would be able to match their top tier models that would run the Kanjo loops or drift around the Toge roads because should an accident happen, it's cheaper to repair. Also, with the lack of Toyotas at the beginning of launch would have been very disappointing. Having one of Japan's main manufacturer being absent, it just would have been ludicrous. Thankfully, Toyota has now returned to the franchise, but right now, at the cost of no new Toyotas or Lexuses, my belief is that we won't see any new Toyotas in Horizon 4, meaning cars like the Mark V Supra or the Lexus LC500, which I did see a lot over in Japan, would be missing in Horizon 4. Also, what would have been a suitable cover car? Usually Playground Games will have a flagship car that is from the location of where the game is set, except for Horizon 3, as I don't think any HSVs, Ford Falcons or a Ute would have sold as many copies as placing a Lamborghini Centenario as its cover car. But for Japan in 2018, there wasn't many cars you could choose from, especially without Toyota. Thankfully, now Horizon 5 will most likely release in 2021, meaning there is a possibility of the new 2021 Supra to be on the cover or even the new 400Z by Nissan, but who knows? All I know is that car choices in all aspects would have been detrimental for Horizon 4 Japan. Number 4, unpolished at launch. I'm sure many who are watching this video probably didn't even play Horizon 4 when it first released. And let me tell you, the game was so unfinished that honestly it left a bitter taste in many long-term Horizon fans. Now, seeing where the game is now, Playground Games have done a really good job in amending many of the changes, including additional content to make up for the terrible launch the game had. There were abundance of bugs and glitches where a lot will come from just the sound of the vehicles themselves, from hanging revs to making weird whiny noises that shouldn't have been there in the first place. Other bugs like traction control being turned on automatically after a race, to wrong car thumbnails when you are in your garage. I mean, there were so many, and also the lack of features such as Rivals mode being locked exclusively to specific cars. It wasn't the open class brackets like it is now. Also the lack of private lobbies and so many more. When you bring in a new game that's supposed to be a sequel, features that made that previous game shouldn't be removed for the following title and then brought back in later saying, hey look, we listened, so you're getting the new feature back. I don't think that's the right way to go about it, because it shows that the developers weren't listening in the first place to whatever data they have on their previous title on what makes it successful. Free roam rush was also another issue, along with the team-only online adventure. Now imagine all of that bundled in a New Horizon game set in Japan, knowing full well there won't be another shot at this location. My goodness, that would have been so disappointing given how excited the community was, but thankfully that is not the case, and to be honest, I think we dodged a big swing here. And lastly, number 5, a conflict of demographic. I guess that's one way of looking at it, or did Playground games go too mainstream? With the popularity of Fortnite breaking all kinds of gaming records, I believe Playground games also tried experimenting with character customization, allowing our own characters to dress up and do dances. Thankfully, none of this cost any money, but what was annoying was that it did interfere with player progression. Now, when we look at the Japanese car culture, it's a friendly yet serious atmosphere too. The last thing I believe any one of us wants to see is a car cruise with our avatars doing the chicken dance in a green man's suit. So on one hand, the character customization is light-hearted, targeted towards the younger audience, whereas the Japanese location would be pretty much the opposite. I'm not saying that the younger audience wouldn't be able to enjoy it, as I'm sure many of them are JDM car fans, but those two elements are a conflict of interest, and I just don't think they mix well together. So there we have it guys, 5 reasons as to why Forza Horizon 4 set in Japan would have failed. If you guys do agree or disagree, make sure to write it down in the comment section below. I do read them. And also, if you guys did find this video very interesting, make sure to smash the thumbs up button. That would really help me out. And also, if you guys would like to see more Forza Horizon 4 content right here on this channel, make sure to click the subscribe button with notifications turned on. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace.